Excellent. Hey, well, welcome everyone. Sorry, starting a bit later than expected. 4 minutes still cutting up. And there's... Are
we live at the moment, David?
Yeah, we should be live on YouTube. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I just want to... well, welcome everyone. Good. Have a bit of music. Slight hiccup at the start there. But Lewis, you're in the pen. Can you tell us about the bikes, perhaps? And what are you seeing in terms of the racing here? And what bikes are people using today?
So I think there's a real mix. It's hard to get too close to them. They're penned right in. But I think there's a couple of Tron bikes I've seen. So some of the more keen Zwifters have earned those bikes over I think 50,000 meters of climbing, which for most of us is a hell of a long way. We're seeing a few aero bikes. Most people see there's a couple of ascents of Box Hill today, so they don't want to go to aero, given that they're going to be lugging that all the way up and down the hill. But I think we'll see it really shaking out over the first lap or so, and we'll see what the guys and the girls at the front of the race are riding, and that's clearly the right choice.
So do you think they're going to, is it going to be a mass mega start, or will people be calm? I mean, there's about 120 riders in the pen for the A's and B's and C's together.
I think the way these normally shake out on Zwift is about a strong effort for the first minute or two, and I expect it'll be no different in this race before the tactics start to settle down. I don't expect people to be able to keep that up for too long, but they certainly want to create a front group and know who they're competing against for the rest of the race.
Yeah, excellent. Well, Amelia, any thoughts before we get going?
I'm just having a few issues actually getting in, just bear.
Okay, the usual stuff. Right, well, I think it might be time
having a few tech issues this end, but we will be absolutely fine and off and running in a sec.
Okay. Well, I think maybe it's time to start a bit of music for the riders to build them up a bit. Here we go. Here's something hopefully they'll enjoy.
One light, two lights, three lights, four lights, five lights.
Nice sense of occasion, I think. So you see on YouTube, we're actually watching both races on YouTube. We've got the men's on the right and the women's on the left, and we'll switch between them as we go. One minute to go.
What were those?
28. And they're off. That's a fast start then. So what are we seeing on the race, guys? It's a very strong lot.
This is a big group of people, and it's a real mix at the front end. We've got the majority of bays, but there's a few things already pulling out before. So just stick up there. We've got a mixed team all representing
Yeah, and I'm going to work on muting all the people that aren't muted here. You.
Interesting early use of a power up already in at the front of the race. I don't know whether that's because they don't want that there for later, or whether because they're clinging to stay on, knowing that when it settles down, they need to be at the front of the race. Strongest effort so far probably goes to Islington Cycle Club, who've got a number of riders in the top 10 who are really pushing the effort.
And the women are about to, oh, the women have gone. Well, missed the start there. It looks like a very good, very big peloton to me here. Seriously crowded at the front there.
Yeah, this is certainly more crowded than you normally get in a race like this, which, if anything, goes to point to the how few sandbaggers there are. This is a really fair race, and given it's a local London race, this is really nice to see. We have, however, got a London Dynamo going off the front, putting out 7 watts per kilo for a little effort there, a little big. I think he's testing his legs and he's seeing who can go with him. No one immediately went with him, but he's fallen back for the chasing pack now. He knows what he's seen. He'll take that away, stick that in his mind, and know if he can go again later.
Excellent. And just looking across at the ladies' race now, very much one pack at the moment, all riding together. 3 dynamos setting the pace. The Alexa Forbes there from Kingston, a couple more riders. Looking like they're same thing. They're going to take it steady. They want to have a good day out on the bikes. No one really breaking away. I don't think anyone's fallen off the back either. Oh, actually, yes, the commentator has. That's me. But otherwise, seems like there's one group at the front and a couple of other riders there. Moving down the mile. When do you think Northumberland and Newton?
Strong effort on the front there from the Dirty Weekend race team, one of the newer clubs in the area actually, and a really inclusive club that operates out of the southwest and I think has international branches as well. They're showing that they're for all riders here, and they've certainly got some strong riders there showing they're mixing it up at the front of the A race.
That's great, Lewis. My PC is obviously struggling a bit with the streaming and everything, so it dropped out there. But thanks for keeping up the commentary while we're going, and feel free to dive in. I think we're getting both races streamed on YouTube though, which is nice. There's parallel one. I'm seeing on the no real action the ladies race, women's race yet. Just moving slowly along. Are we come up Northumberland Avenue now? Oh no, we're getting to Box Hill. It looks like in the men's.
Yeah, just heading through the tube station now, and this is where it'll start to get competitive. There is a split already, and people know they need to be on the right side of that to start going up the hill.
It'll be interesting to see how the YouTube stream comes, because on my screen it looks like there's bikes crashing everywhere as the images don't quite work.
I think that's people's bike handling after being in lockdown for so long. We all knew it would suffer.
I'm just looking through the front there. The few Bs have held on to the As. Be interesting to see if they can keep it going the whole way.
I think agreed. I think if they were there at the top of Box Hill the first time and the second time, they'll really get a lot of confidence from that. But the amount of times we're going up it today, it's going to be really hard if you're not truly an A to stick with this front group.
Yeah, they're putting out a lot of watts, aren't they? Wow, they're sort of doing 4 to 5, well, maybe 5 watts the whole time. That's superb.
Yeah, it's a real strong effort at the front here. It's we can see obviously just behind the effect the draft has. They're putting out slightly lower watts, in the high 3s and low 4s, just sitting in the middle of the draft. But the danger with that is if anyone goes off the front, you're not in a place to react.
Yeah, so we'll give a little musical encouragement for them now. Here we go, up the Box Hill. Still up the hill, looks like Lewis to me.
Yeah, this is, you can see Jay Gray is really pushing up Watson, has stayed on the front of the races, has led them out for a little while now. Whether they're a true climber or whether they're a domestique working for the rest of their team, we'll have to wait and see.
He's from the Tour 2000 team. They're a team coming from Somerset, actually, and I think they're pretty strong from what I heard here.
Interesting. So it'll be interesting whether they can travel. He's really putting out over 400 watts here at the start of the climb. Good to see Sebastian Lee, the London Dynamo representative, near the pointy end of the race.
Yeah.
Wait and see.
He's from the Tour 2000 team. They're a team coming from Somerset, actually, and I think they're pretty strong from what I heard here. Ladies starting up the hill now, again keeping it fairly together. Keep the riders entertained up the hill. Hope no one's been doing this.
We have got a break in the front of the men's race. 4 riders have gone off the front. This is a big effort. Who are we seeing? We're seeing Team T2K, VBO, in fact 2 representatives of T2K, so they really do travel well. VBO and ACC chasing them down. We've got a few London Dynamos led by Lee Davis, who are not going to let them get too much time.
That's a very early break to make, I'd say. But good luck if they got the power.
I think they're already splitting up, so I think there's a danger of trying to do this solo. And in fact, it's like they're realising it. They're easing off slightly. They know they can't do the rest of this race on their own.
Yeah, ACC with some late entry from Athlon. Don't even know what that is. But you're welcome, guys.
You just wanna spill flies on the seat, Sprite on the seat, come ride on the seat. Last girl, she'll lie on the seat, she'll fart on the seat, now she jogging the streets. I don't trust no one, begging like a fan, asking for a pic. You should use your phone, call an Uber, you a goofy if you think I don't know you need a lift. Is you ain't got gas money, no IOUs or debit cards, I need cash money. So back up, I need space now, I need you to slow it down, it's not a race now, I can't really hear what you gotta say now. Start dancing,
So far this break of 4 have put about 15 seconds into the chasing pack. Chasing pack containing 2 Dynamos, I think, JP Lake and Lee Davies. 20 seconds now. That's a real strong effort from this rider from Team Heel from Team VBO. Really putting out consistent watts, although getting to the top of the climb has sat back in behind both riders from Team T2K.
So we've got...
They have to push on for this down.
Yep. And Lee Davis from Dynamo coming through, I think, too. Good to see. I think I'm going to turn the video off because there's too much streaming things here. So I'm just going to go to voice now, I think. Seems to work better.
Looks like we have one of the guest speakers has just joined us, David.
Oh, yes. Here comes Ashleigh.
Hello.
Hey, hi, Ashleigh. Welcome.
Hi, maybe I...
I've got some theme
Good
music.
morning, Ashley. It's Alex here.
I've got some theme music for Ashleigh just joining here. I think we know this one. I think it reflects your amazing work this year so far, Ashleigh.
How is it?
Thanks, David.
I'm John. Yeah. How do I get my photo of my... Okay, great.
Anyway, enough of the music. So, Ashleigh, thanks so much for joining us for a few minutes before your next race. But I think you've been amazing this year. You've done some superb.
Thanks for
work
having
on
me.
Zwift and all
Sorry,
that
I
sort of
turned the video off because
Yeah, it's a bit slow. I think the servers are struggling a bit here.
seems like my Wi-Fi's. So how things good?
Well, apart from the usual sort of technical,
Yeah,
apart from the technical challenges, not too bad. But we've done the first loop of the race, and there's been quite a big break in the A's. They've actually got about a 40-second. 4 riders have gone out, and they've got a 40-second lead already, which I think is pretty remarkable on the first lap. They've got another hour and a half to go, so we'll see if that lasts.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and the ladies are working together. Generally, they're sticking together. There's about a team of 6 of them doing very well. Yeah. But tell us, how have you found how have you found lockdown, Ashleigh? What you've been up to?
Okay, great. And yeah, well, I mean, I spent a lot of time on Zwift during lockdown and really got into the Zwift racing. So yeah, I'm a Zwift. Now things are right now. So things seem to be getting back to some kind of normal. Now just trying to balance the outdoor training and indoor training. But yeah, still spending a fair amount.
Yeah. And I think we've got a few other people on. Because we're on Zwift, we've got a few people that aren't quite. I'm just muting someone there. Shouldn't be on. Okay. It's a bit chaotic here. Alex, are you around? I know you had some questions for Ashleigh. Alex is racing.
I'm here.
Okay, so how's it in the race, Alex?
Well, sorry I'm not still here. Wasn't really planning to enter this, but I thought I'd give the I'm going to say it's now raining.
Oh, right. Okay. Is it raining in Spain? Is it raining in Spain, Ashleigh? How's it at Rocacorba, where you're based?
Today is a bit of an overcast day. I think it might start raining soon. So it seems like I might be indoors for my entire session today. But yeah, otherwise really good. We've had a nice weather yesterday with the food truck open. So yeah, it's...
Because you've got a little business out there, which I know. I think I might have seen Rob Middleton hop on the call a minute ago. One of the other speakers who met you in South Africa last year. It was after a free weekend or something. I'm not sure he won it.
Yeah. So last year we did a gravel event in South Africa. One which Hot Chili put on with Rainmaker, and yeah, we offered a stay at Rocacorba Cycling for an auction. So yeah, Rocacorba Cycling is our business in Spain. Accommodation, bike rental, guiding. You know, we make everybody who wants to come out here and stay, we try and make their stay as enjoyable as possible and share our beautiful area.
Yeah. No, sounds great. You just got cut there a bit, but
yeah, Ashleigh, just from a technical point, if you're on Wi-Fi, it's sometimes easier if you just go to normal 3G or 4G for Discord. Obviously, we want to hear what you're saying, breaking up just slightly.
Okay, well, maybe I should get onto my phone Discord because I never had them on the phone, but I went on Mac to have the video. So maybe let me try.
Well, Ashleigh recommended that I can introduce her, but for those who don't know, who haven't been following Ashleigh could be said to be the current sort of queen of Zwift, and the races that there have been, she's been either winning them or all of them, often by a country. But otherwise, she is on the road. She's a multi-time South African national road race and time trial champion. I'm currently the co-leader of the CCC Live team with.
Thanks for the intro, Alex. I'm back. I hope this is better.
yeah, that's great.
Much better,
Okay.
yeah, thanks.
Good.
Ashleigh's a bit distant from us because she's based out in a town called Banyoles near Girona, northeast Spain. absolute cycling.
Yeah, yeah, we're very lucky. Yeah, I definitely think it's cycling paradise. We have an amazing network of beautiful, quiet country roads. Also, a lot of diversity. Not far from the beautiful Costa Brava, but also close to the foothills of the Pyrenees. So yeah, I think it's a beautiful place to ride your bike.
So actually, when you're not riding your bike outside in that glorious landscape around you, how have you been finding Zwift? Very different challenge, but one you...
Yeah, I mean, so I wasn't a fan of indoor training before lockdown, but yeah, as a result of the lockdown, I learned to embrace it, and I've really enjoyed it. So yeah, I suppose it helped to be successful in a couple of racing, which kind of boosted the morale and motivation. And yeah, now I incorporate Zwift into my regular routine, sort of balancing outdoor and indoor training. But I definitely think there's a lot of benefits training on Zwift.
So after this boom in Zwift during lockdown all over the world, do you see a future for Zwift?
Yeah, well, I see it as another discipline in cycling. So yeah, there are some cyclists or road cyclists that don't really embrace it that well, but there are some of us that are enjoying it. So I think it will become somewhat of a speciality, but I think it is something that complements road cycling in the real world. And I think it's important for road cycling teams to diversify. As you know, we've seen the COVID really was quite a big crisis, and cycling has really suffered as a consequence. So I think indoor cycling and indoor racing or e-racing on Zwift definitely complements road cycling. And what we've also noticed is that the Zwift racing also engages a new audience. So it's engaging a much younger audience, which I think is good for the future of the sport.
Certainly, it'd be good for road cycling to diversify into the online platform, given the potential in the future for further COVID-related interruptions. But first, how do you find your training with this?
Yeah, well, I definitely, I believe I've gotten a lot stronger, and this has actually been proven by doing some performance testing as well. So the reality is indoor training is much harder than training outdoors. I think when we ride outdoors, it's very easy to sort of develop some sort of cheat mechanisms, where you freewheeling or using really high cadence to produce power. Whereas on the indoor trainer, you're really forced to work on your brute force or on your real, brute power. So for me, it's been a really productive time training on Zwift and sort of accessing, some more power. So, in a performance test, I got a new maximum power output. So I think it definitely complements, but you obviously need to find the balance because, outdoor riding does involve, using the bike and more technique. So it's important to find a balance between the two. But when you do, they definitely complement one another.
Now, we know you need to go to your own private group meetup this morning, but how was your first ride in real life after months of Zwifting? What did you...
Yeah, so after being stuck on Zwift for 7 weeks and, just seeing how well it was going and having had a positive affirmation from the racing and performance testing, I decided, well, as soon as the lockdown lifted, I wanted to have an attempt at my Strava time on Rock. So yeah, first day of lockdown easing up, I headed up Rock and I set a new record. So 31:09, which I was pretty happy with, and I think it just showed how productive I'd been on Zwift and on indoor training.
To put that into context, Rock is what, a 10K climb with an average gradient?
Yeah, about 9%, I'd say.
How much time did you take off your old?
So my old QOM was 34:40, I think. So it was 3.5 minutes.
A testament to your youth.
Yeah, I think that's remarkable. I think I'm just going to do one more. Amazing. But actually, that's the wrong song.
She's just a girl and she's on fire.
That's Ashleigh's theme tune, I think, now.
Thanks, David.
We have to actually go and get on with our group ride. But
Yeah. Thanks so much for
thank you,
joining
Ashley,
us.
for inspiring.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. All the best for the rest of the racing.
Yeah, well, you can pop back on again at the end if you want. We might still be going. Who knows? But have a good time. Alrighty.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. So brilliant. So I think could be time for an update from the race. It looks like there's a bit of a regrouping at the front. Lewis, seeing that?
Yeah. So there's either a bit of soft pedalling from the 4 who went off the front, and I think a combination of that and some really hard chasing from the 8 behind. I mean, we've gathered now. There's a nice bunch of 12 who they're going fast, and they're putting out watts most of us can't do for a sustained period. But you can tell they're really not pushing it. Heart rates have come down. I think we were seeing some really high heart rates going up Box Hill in the 180s and 190s. Now we're sitting in 140s, 150s, showing that it's an effort that's still tough, and they're going to be feeling it. But they can stick at this pace for a little while. We've got a few teams represented up front here. We've obviously got the T2K and the Athlon guys that were here before. Both London Dynamo, JP Lake and Lee Davies have made it to this front split. ICC are represented. I think that's about it.
Yeah, that's Islington Cycle Club is ICC. That's who they are. So some Londoners and some not. Fantastic. Okay. And I think we got Tom on the line as well. Tom Hargreaves, are you there from Zwift? I think I see you there.
Morning.
Hi. How's it going?
Very well. How are you?
Yeah, well, we're enjoying it. I mean, I don't know if you're able to see some of the action here. Lewis said, being a great commentator, I'm trying to hold it all together as best I can. We just heard some from Ashleigh there. That was amazing what she did coming on Zwift, wasn't it? Going up to the...
Yeah. Incredible. Yeah, I was listening. I've been watching the YouTube link, and I was listening to what Ashleigh was saying, and like her experience with Zwift and the way that she's kind of championed it is obviously fantastic for us, and the way that she's approached it is just amazing. We think to that kind of story of not being a fan of indoor cycling, jumping on, giving it a go, enjoying it and trying out all the different elements and aspects of it, and then so rapidly going to the top of the invitational races that we were putting on, and winning the first one she did, and winning in such kind of fantastic style is it's awesome. It's amazing when athletes of that caliber come to the platform and really champion it. We're kind of awestruck with her abilities and talent, and it's fantastic.
But I mean, the platform had to be built, Tom, and I think you and the team there get a lot of kudos for creating this thing. It's amazing. You've been there for 3 years, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so I joined Zwift in April 2017, so it's been just over 3 years now, and I guess in some ways the platform has changed vastly since then. In others, it hasn't. There's always been somewhere where a social kind of online community, and from day one it's been about everyone being in there together, and obviously people listening to this or watching this race will know that, but nothing around that has changed. But I think everything else around kind of new courses, new worlds, new features, formalizing stuff like racing so you get proper events where everyone sets off together, all that kind of stuff has been created in the last 3 years, and it's changed in some ways, changed quite dramatically, I think, as software products do and small companies do over a matter of years.
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously great before, but it feels to me like the classic tipping point has happened, and it's often those small features, isn't it? I mean, that ride together is an amazing feature for people who want to get that community going, and obviously the race. I'm not a racer. I've done more races on Zwift in 2 weeks than I've done in my life, and I love it.
Yeah, and that's actually something that's quite what you just said there is quite important. Is this idea of are you a racer, are you not? I think whether or not you're a real life bike racer can be quite a polarizing, or kind of it's quite a nerve-wracking thing. Like bike races in real life are hard for various reasons. There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of kind of skill involved. There is certainly a bit of kind of elitism involved with bike racing, even at a local level. So whether or not you're a real life bike racer versus a bike racer on Zwift, they're two very different things. And there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't, jump on your Zwift setup in your house or in your garage or even at the local gym, do a 20-minute, 30-minute or however long Zwift race and then be back in the house within 5 minutes. And if you get dropped, then it's not an issue. You can still roll around in a group, or if you're completely fed up, you can step off the bike and get back in the house, have a coffee, and it's no big deal. So the point that Ashleigh made a little earlier about Zwift just being a new discipline, that's absolutely the way that we see it. It's not whether you're a road racer or a mountain bike racer or a BMX racer is not kind of super relevant to whether you're going to ride Zwift or whether you're going to be a Zwift racer, because it's just the idea of cycling esports, as the UCI has termed the discipline, is entirely its own thing, and racing on there ideally should be just completely accessible, as fun as possible, and it should be something that people can dip into and learn about and enjoy very easily, which is ideally just breaking down the barriers that would typically exist around needing to get to a real life location to do a bike race and then potentially get dropped early on if it's one of your first races. And so hopefully it's breaking a lot of those barriers and ideally getting as many people to stay fit, stay active as possible.
Yeah, and I was speaking to Ashleigh in a different call. We didn't quite get into it today, but one of the comments she made was for the women riders, they really like it because they, even in this race, we've got 150 men and sort of 10 or 15 women, but they can be a bit intimidated by turning up at a bike race and all that sort of stuff. Whereas this, she's found that they really enjoy it because they can be who they want to be. I mean, I've got much more hair on my avatar than in real life, and longer.
Yeah, it's. I think it's partly that. It's definitely down to this kind of idea of just making it more accessible as well. Bike racing, as I said, bike racing definitely can be intimidating, and there is a need to kind of. I don't know quite what it is, but there is a need to kind of be confident and at times even have like controlled aggression to kind of do well in bike racing, and that's not for everyone. But that doesn't necessarily mean that people shouldn't be able to get involved with bike racing and have fun. I think on the women's side, for us, a big thing is parity. So in the races that we're organising on the platform, the actual kind of the live streamed kind of sort of sanctioned ones, parity is a massively important thing for us. So ensuring that there's equal visibility, equal prize money, equal representation across the board. That's very important for us, and naturally you will see lower start numbers in races like this because a simple fact at the moment is that female representation in cycling in general is lower than male representation, but that doesn't mean you can't provide the opportunities, and by doing so, ideally it grows and the representation gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you just kind of just build it from there essentially.
Yeah, fantastic. But I also, there's a great tour for all. Did you organise that?
I wouldn't say I organised it. That was definitely a full company effort. But that was, for anyone who's familiar with Zwift, we have for a number of years run things like Tour de Zwift or Tour of Utopia, and they're mass participation kind of festivals of cycling on Zwift that will have normally a month-long worth of activity across various stages, and there's group rides and races and kind of live streamed events, and typically for us they take place in January and March, which is kind of peak Northern Hemisphere season for us. Obviously this year has been kind of exceptional circumstances globally, and that prompted us to do another mass participation tour in the event, but with a different angle to it, which was to raise awareness and funds for the in our case it was Médecins Sans Frontières, so Doctors Without Borders. So we made a contribution to the charity and arranged the whole tour of events and races, and for the first time actually World Tour teams racing on the platform head to head to raise kind of visibility and awareness and prompt those donations. So that ran through the month of May. We had coverage of the World Tour events was going out on Eurosport and a GCN app, which was exciting for us from a product perspective because we were pushing the racing on the platform to a new audience and at a higher level. But ultimately it was that the core of that tour was about raising funds and helping with charitable organisations like Middleton Sans Frontières, which obviously at the moment are having to shift their focus towards treating the coronavirus pandemic globally as well. So yeah, it was good. It was good fun. It was a good event, and yeah.
Well, I did all 5, but the big long hill one, I got to the end and my Wi-Fi crashed or something, and it never recorded. So it's maybe you can put it round the back for me or something. I don't know.
I'll sort you out with that. Don't worry. Stage 4 was probably stage 4. It's a bit of a brute. It was either Alpe Zwift or the Epic KOM, which we weren't entirely.
Well, I did the Epic
with that one.
I did the Epic. I did the Epic, and it said 5K to go, and I'm like, oh, this is all right. And then suddenly, it was quite hard, but it was great.
Yeah.
How much money did you raise? I love that charity, by the way. Médecins Sans Frontières, one of my favourite ones. So,
yeah, I really like them. I personally like them a lot. My brother actually works them, and he's worked for them for about I don't know, for a good few years now. He's actually in the Central African Republic at the moment on a mission for them. Has been there since must have been like September, October. So I kind of see the charity from the inside via his updates, and he's been places like Syria and working in the Mediterranean when there was the kind of refugee crisis. So for me, like I feel quite closely connected to that charity as well. And I had, the decision to support that charity was nothing to do with. That wasn't me who made the decision at Zwift. It was other people far higher up than myself. But I was very pleased it was that charity that was picked because of that connection. So yeah, it was nice to be able to string that kind of thing together. I think the total amount raised was north of $320,000. So it was in that sense it was successful. It was.
It's a good segue to our next guest, actually, Rob Middleton, who's on the line. But before we move, we'll probably go to commentary as well and see what developments are happening in the race. But Tom, just on the last thing, obviously we like to know the secrets on these things. Any product developments coming our way? Because at the chat here, we would quite like to have not a burrito, but a box of tacks to throw, and then some punctures or something like that.
That's not in the spirit of the game, is it? Come on.
Well,
we don't want to be sabotaging each other. There's a few little things on the way I can talk about. So, in terms of power-ups, there is a new one. Actually, it's just been released. It's called Steamroller. That is designed to deal with differences in rolling resistance in the game. So, for a while now, since probably around a year ago, we released some updates to mountain bikes, cyclocross bikes, as well as road bike. Someone's not on mute.
I think it's gone now.
Yeah, so we've got more than one road surface and then more than one bike to deal with it. So a mountain bike, for instance, will be faster on a gravel road versus a road bike, as would be the case in real life. So the Steamroller power up essentially levels that and makes whatever bike you're on whatever surface have the same rolling resistance as a road bike on tarmac. So for instance, you were doing a race and you went across a section of gravel, but you were on a road bike, you could use the Steamroller to give yourself an advantage and potentially use that as deploy some tactics to get away. So that's a small update. We've also got some bigger things in the pipeline which have kind of been public knowledge now for a little while because they're being tested with some of our we've got some beta test groups. One's called Club Jarvis, which is essentially a group of people who are invited to help test features who were themselves originally beta testers when Zwift was kind of working on developing just the core platform before it became a paid product. They've been working on something called Boost Mode, which is essentially like a racing mode in the game where you get an e-bike where there's 3 boost options, it might be something like 50 watts for 30 seconds, 200 watts for 17 or 500 watts for 5 seconds, and you've got to pick which boost you want before you start the event, and then you've got to charge the battery of the bike up, and there's a weight penalty associated with the battery charge as well. It's essentially just a new way of racing where you can kind of store some of your excess power and then deploy that at points that you think are kind of tactically astute times to do that. So that's been tested for a while, and we'll be releasing that to the general user base fairly soon. And there's another one called Sights and Sounds mode, which is essentially, I personally see it as a bit like kind of, if you're familiar with other computer games a bit like hardcore mode. So it takes away a lot of your heads-up display. So you wouldn't see the rider nearby list. You wouldn't see kind of any of the displays around the periphery of the screen. It's really just you and the Zwift world. Much more akin to what it's like riding your bike outside. So you can either use, that mode's being tested, but in theory you could use that just to ride around Watopia or whatever world and take in the sights and sound, or it could be used in group rides or race events, and you get a more, I guess, an experience more like real life, where if someone's attacking, you wouldn't see red numbers popping up in a rider nearby list on your right hand side, or you wouldn't be able to see your kind of position on the map and stuff like that. So you'd have to just respond to what you're seeing in the world around you. There's a few things on the way along with.
And any hardware? There's rumours of a Zwift bike at some point. No one's listening.
No one's listening, sure. So that's an interesting one for me personally, because actually my role at Zwift changed a few weeks back, and I now work in that hardware team, having worked on cycling projects for the last 3 years. So the fact we're developing hardware in inverted commas is no longer a secret, and there is a team that's working on that kind of stuff. So I think the short answer is yes, there will be hardware, and it is coming also in inverted commas soon. But yeah, it's still essentially just a work in progress. That, unlike software, needs to be obviously treated quite differently because of things like manufacturing timelines, which are being impacted somewhat by the current global situation, but also that software development cycles are very different to hardware development cycles, something I'm personally learning myself at the moment. It's being worked on. It's going to be awesome. It's very exciting, but there's nothing major that can be spoken about now, I'm afraid, other than that it is on the way.
All right. Well, you know where to share the info. Tom, thanks so much for joining us. I think there's quite a lot going on in the race. So, do we want to go back, Lewis? Have you got time for a commentary now, and then we'll move across to Rob, I think, who's here.
Yeah. So it's been a really interesting few minutes. Actually, we saw another break go away up Box Hill, and B. Thomas from Team T2K really tried to go solo for a little bit. T Heel, you'll remember that name from the first lap, bridged across to him, and the two of them put a really hard effort in, at one point getting out to about 20 seconds of a break to the chasing group. As with the first lap, though, coming down Box Hill, that everyone eased off and back into London, going along the embankment, we're back to a group of 12. So we normally expect this to calm down a little bit for the next couple of minutes until they get to box again. I certainly am going to watch out for T Heel from Team VBO, who I think on both the first two laps has put a real big effort in up box. There is a danger that he's burning all of his matches, but if he's got stuff in his legs, then he's really going to be involved at the pointy end of the race.
Yeah, okay. And just in the ladies' race, which I'm seeing as well, it's kind of separated out now. We've got C. Lewis and Halsey and Skidmore. So one Dynamo and two from the Athlon Cycling Club, and they're together at the front. And then we've got E. London Dynamo, who's Ellie, I know, about 12 seconds back. So she might just come back on there, just going to the top of box on their second lap. So we're going to watch them because they've got a shorter race, of course, because they're not going to be quite as far. It's 3 laps, not 2. And I've also just scrolled down to see what's happening in the B's and the C's. And there's a few, the A's, it's very interesting that the categories seem to have worked because the A's are all together. There's one B hanging around, then it's generally the B's and there's a couple of C's coming through. So very open. It's certainly split out quite a long gap now across the whole race. But working to see how it goes. Anyway, Rob, are you there?
Hi, David. Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Well, welcome to the London Dynamo Road Race commentary, and appreciate you spending time with us today. What would be really helpful, Rob, is maybe give us a little background of what you've done in cycling and what you've been doing in particular around this. Just by way of introduction, Rob's a very senior doctor based in Poole and Bournemouth. He's a professor of the Orthopedic Research Institute, RI, down there, and has been the clinical lead in the whole of the UK, I think, for hip replacements. So if you have a problem with your hip, Rob is your man in the UK and probably one of the best surgeons in the world, I think. So Very privileged to have you here, Rob, and look forward to hearing all about it.
Thank you very much, David. And it was you, in fact, that turned me from someone who rode a bike into a cyclist, because almost 15 years ago, I remember you did the Étape du Tour, and I've been into cycling, and I think Lance Armstrong had stoked my interest in the Tour de France, but I never thought I could ride a stage of the Tour de France, let alone a mountainous one. And I remember you signed up and did it, and then you came and stayed with us, and just as a passing aside, you said, do you fancy doing it next year? And without thinking, I said yes. And that led to me buying a bike, training, doing the Étape, and then, like everyone listening here, becoming a cyclist. So in some ways, it sort of transformed my life. And it turned from not only something that I enjoyed doing as a sport and a hobby, but also in what I do as I'm a professor. I both operate but also run a research institute, and to look into how cycling may be a benefit to people. And I'd injured myself running about 15 years ago, and I was off running and I was just cycling, and I realised that my hip pain and stiffness got better the more I cycled. And to cut to the chase, after many years of research, we established that cycling was beneficial, and we put together a 6-week cycling program called Chain, Cycling Against Hip Pain, which has now been shown in national studies to improve hip pain in about 80% of patients. And the particular relevance during these coronavirus times is that as hospital treatment's not available, self-management courses like this become more important. And the key message to take away is if you've got a stiff, painful hip, then 30 minutes of cycling a day can improve your symptoms by about 80%. So that's 80%.
80%.
80%, yes. So
wow.
It has a short half-life, cycling, so it's something you have to do every day. But it's sort of counterintuitive. You think when you've got a stiff, painful joint that just resting it, it'll get better. Now, for acute injuries, that can be true, but when you've got a chronic condition, if you don't stretch the joint, and you can do that with physio or yoga or things, then it gets stiffer and more painful. And sitting on a static bike or a normal bike, remain in the saddle, spin a low gear, if you do 30 minutes of cycling, you're doing about 1,500 stretches of that hip. And if you do that every day over 6 weeks, about 80% get a measurable improvement in their symptoms.
Wow, that's really interesting. Really, I think Tom's still listening. He's probably working out a new marketing ploy for Zwift. Maybe you guys should talk. Yeah, that really is.
Alex.
Yeah, Alex.
I'm just going to comment on one thing that we've been discussing with Ashleigh and Pasio, is that actually those of us who are lifting quite a lot get a high incidence of
You just broke up, Alex. I'm kind of guessing what you said was if you Zwift a lot, you're getting a bit of aching or not?
It seems to be quite a common feature of people Zwifting a lot is
Yes, I don't know if you can hear me. It was breaking up, but the general gist was that if you're Zwifting a lot or on a static bike, you sometimes can get some pain. I would say two things. One would be bike setup. I think that's almost more important for static bikes because you're in one position for longer. And the second thing is just trying to vary it a bit. Either if you're just on a static bike, then I think post-exercise stretches are important. So as part of our program, we have a stretching regime that people do afterwards. And we find that if you combine the static bike with stretching afterwards, then most of those problems go. So I think bike fit and stretching are the key things.
Okay, that's great. And Rob, you mentioned COVID. I hear you had quite a role in COVID down in Poole. How was that for you?
Yes, well, my life's changed. I've always been a surgeon. I specialise in robotic-assisted hip replacement. and 90% of my time is spent, operating. And obviously, COVID came round. We shut down both the NHS and private hospitals doing orthopedics, and I was appointed as a medical commander at Poole Hospital, one of our regional hospitals, and was helping to run the hospital day to day. It was incredible to see how the NHS responded. Over a week, we transformed ourselves from a standard elective service into one that could respond to what we thought was going to be a tsunami of patients being admitted with COVID. I think everyone across the board responded, and we were in a position where we could have coped with it. Luckily, that peak didn't come, and now the NHS is trying to restore normality. But we were lucky down here in the southwest. We didn't have as many cases as London, but even London coped well, even though the O2, the Nightingale Hospital, was built. Luckily, only 19 patients had to go there. And I think that shows how hard all the hospitals in London work to look after their population. So, yes, I'm very proud of being a small part in a big organisation that responded well. And I think coming out of COVID now is to look after ourselves. And I think things like London Dynamos, supporting virtual racing, supporting commuting is the key thing. And maybe the good that can come out of it is that if more of us spend more of our time on their bikes, they're less likely to need to come to hospital to see me or anyone else.
Yeah, we never want to meet you, do we, really?
You definitely don't. Just on the road cycling, I hope.
Yeah, I must
David, I think I'm back in.
Oh, hi. Great, Amelia.
Hi. We've had some nightmare issues. The Zwift crashed, and my computer just had a bit of a nightmare. So I can't see the race, but we'll be here on the channels otherwise.
Okay. Well, welcome back, Amelia.
Yeah, I know it's a bit of a nightmare, but we're here now.
Were you listening to what Rob was saying?
I was. It was very interesting, actually. What do you think about, Rob? What do you think about static cycling in actually increasing injuries? Because there are actually I've seen some reports that actually show that people have to be quite careful, especially some professional cyclists, with cycling indoors, because obviously you're not getting that same movement that you would outdoors. What are your thoughts on that?
I think the first thing to say is whenever we talk about cycling injuries on the road or on a static bike, you have to compare that with the general health problems you get without exercising. So if you put all injuries in together, if we all cycled, there would be far less. So doing exercise nearly always is a benefit. And although there are some problems, they're minor compared with the ones that you get if you don't cycle. I think the problem with static bikes is obviously you're often in a single position for a prolonged period, and so setup again is important, but you need to do some other exercise as well. So I think if you're cycling on the road regularly, then doing sessions statically is not a problem. If you're just on the static bike, then I'd recommend something like Pilates or yoga or stretching exercises or some gym exercises. And probably you want to think about 10 to 20 minutes after every session on the bike. If that doesn't solve it, then I think seeing a physiotherapist or a good sports trainer would make a difference. And sometimes it's an imbalance of the muscles that we're particularly using our quads and things, and they can get over strong. So simple things: check your bike fit, do 10 to 20 minutes of stretching. If that's not the case, then I would say your personal trainer or a physiotherapist. And I think in nearly all cases that will solve the problem. The key message, though, is continue to cycle, continue to commute. You'll be in much better shape than you're not. Obviously, if you've got an acute injury, rest, ice, simple painkillers, gradually getting back. But a more chronic thing, in general, it's best to keep going.
It's interesting because a lot of cyclists are encouraged to do things like strength training, because cycling is obviously a non-impact sport. So in terms of bone density, I hear that can can sometimes be a consideration to add to your cycling regime outside of actually being on the bike?
That's exactly right. And I've probably been one of the worst examples of not taking my own advice. For the last 15 years, I've just cycled, having a sort of a busy professional life and family life. Whenever I've had the chance, I've just got on my bike. So since David persuaded me to do the 2006 Etap, I gave up running, I gave up going to the gym, I just cycled in my free time. Now in my sort of mid to late 50s, I just sort of noticing I'm starting to lose muscle bulk. And you're exactly right. Particularly as you get older, probably in your 30s and 40s, you can get away with just doing cycling on its own. But as you get into your 50s, you can't. There is a brilliant book, Joe Friel's book about Faster 50. And if you read that, you can't go wrong. But the key thing you need to do, and I do now, is you need to do some weight-bearing exercise. So 1 or 2 runs a week. You need to do 1 or 2 weight strengthening sessions in the gym or at home. Because if you don't use your muscles, they will tend to waste by a couple of % each year. You need to do 1 to 2 sessions on Zwift or on the turbo to try and maintain your VO2 max, and then you've got your endurance work on the bike. So for me, my life changed the coronavirus, not only work-wise, but it made me change so that I go for a run each week. I do a session in the gym each week. I try and do a session on the watt bike, and then I cycle the rest of the time. And that's a much better balance than what I've been doing for 50 years, which is just cycling. And the advantage is it should make you, faster and stronger on the bike. So yes, mix it up. But as you get older, certainly mix it up. If you can do it younger, if you're younger as well, then you're laying the foundations for a successful cycling career and also to keep you out of hospital.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rob. I think we're actually going to go quickly to Alex, who says he's got an update from the front of the race. Alex, what's going on?
Well, just a general update, really. We've got 3 riders away. Forgive me for using their surnames, but I don't know their first names. But we've got Natasha Halsey, who's a young London Dynamo rider, who's performing a brilliant race up on the front with someone called Skidmore and Steve Lewis, both from the same side, ACC, as they're listed.
Yeah.
And then followed up about the time gaps. But we've got Ellie, London Dynamo, who's about 24.
Yeah, she's 121 behind Alex. Yeah.
121, is it right?
Yeah.
We've got Brailsford, and then we've got William Troy, London Dynamo, followed by Tracy Corbett. Who's in there with Alexa Fulton, who's another name I recognise.
Yeah, Alexa's an ex-Olympic rower, so she's in Rob's age category we were just talking about.
Anyway, the women's race is now heading down into the tube or the tunnel, heading up to Surrey again. So that's drawing towards an end to the second lap.
Yeah, that'll be their final race. We'll maybe focus the coverage on that later on. And I also noticed on the men's race that the lead group now, which is quite a good selection, going up Box Hill for the 3rd time, they are whizzing round. I mean, it's much faster than I imagine it would be. But they've just actually lapped someone, which is even more remarkable. So they've actually started to lap some of the C and B riders, and they're sort of sucking them up as time goes by, which may be a little bit depressing if you're one of those riders. I think it would have been me. Yeah.
Yeah, I recognise another ex-Dynamo, and we've got Mike Dedman, who's...
Yeah, they're coming up through the back markers now. We've had a really interesting last few minutes in the race where the JP Lake for Dynamo really tried to go for it on his own up to Trafalgar Square. I thought he got to 10 seconds, 12 seconds. I thought someone might go with him. No one bridged across, and they've come back together to go up to Box Hill. Just coming down the other side of Box. This is the first time we haven't seen a real strong breakaway. The riders obviously know they've got one more ascent, and they really want to save what's left in their legs for that effort. I'm sure next time round we're going to see a few more digs off the front. But for now, they're sitting at good level of watts, 300, 400 watts, and they're riding as a bit of a group to as they're coming up to the start of their fourth lap.
Okay.
Thanks very much for that. That's a good update.
So what I'm thinking, Amelia, now you're back, is I don't see Felix on the chat unless he wants to shout out.
No, I don't.
No, but I mean, what you are there, are you, Felix?
Yeah, avid sport is my tag.
Ah, you're okay. You're in stealth mode. There he is. All right, excellent. Well,
so I'm still having a few issues with some of the sound on this, so I'm slight disaster with the technology this end, but
okay.
Bear with me one second.
Well, we've got a few more guests, and maybe we should open it up. We've got Christoph as well from Muoverti, and I think there was an interesting link between what Rob was saying about movement on the bike and what the Muoverti product is, because there's a little bit of that involved. It's one of the things that they're trying to create. I'm sure we'll hear about that shortly. And then we've got Jan and Rich, who are both coaches. I'm sure we're listening quite intently to what Rob was saying. So we'll make it. It'll be an interesting discussion, I think, going forward. I'm just watching. The race might be finished before we know it, but we'll keep on going because those back markers want to be entertained as well. So why don't we talk to Felix? You're next on the thing. Tell us more about what you've done, because Felix has been really one of the big instigators of the Zwift British Cycling Championships that have been going on. We'd love to know more about how that came about.
Yeah, good morning, everyone, and thanks for having me. And I just want to say, really impressive work, David, and all your team. I've worked in events, and I've done my little bit with Zwift races, but this is certainly raising the bar. So congratulations on putting something impressive together.
Oh, thank you. I mean, Rob, the previous speaker, Rob just told me I'd change his life, which is absolute rubbish, and he beats me up every hill we ever go up. So I'm not taking that for long, but thank you anyway.
And so I started with British Cycling in December, and I'm the regional events officer for the South region. And within a couple of months of starting with British Cycling events, suddenly no events were possible. And so I looked at what was possible, and as you guys are doing today, racing through Zwift is what's keeping us all going, really. And so I linked up with one of the local clubs in Bath, which is where I live, to try and start to bring the clubs together that would normally be racing at Odd Downs, which is our local circuit, and to bring us together to race on Zwift. And so similar to what you've done, we built it around the clubs, built it around the teams, because one of the brilliant things about racing in a league or in a series is that you can have a social element, and that helps to kind of bring people along and keep people engaged. And the clubs are a huge part of that. And whilst we can't actually race together, Zwift breaks down those geographical barriers and creates the opportunity to do that during the suspension events. So it was trying to harness the essence of Zwift and add some of the flavour of real life, which is, again, what you've done and taken to the new level today.
Felix, I'm interested to know what have the challenges been in actually bringing Zwift geographically around the country, and also challenges in terms of female racing, because obviously, as we can see here today in this race, for example, we've got 100 odd men and only 10 ladies. So how do you bring more women into Zwift?
Some really interesting questions. So the geographic challenge, so it made all the more difficult by the staff that were furloughed by British Cycling since the suspension event. And so I was faced with the prospect of trying to spread my work with my network around my region across the other 10 regions. And I've managed 9 out of 10 so far. I've got one more to crack, which I've got to call in the next couple of days. And the way that works is some really, really fantastic regional committees of volunteers. In fact, 2 of them are in the Chaser group. You've got Alice Lethbridge, who's in the Southeast region, and Charlie Revel from Team Shaw, who's in the Southwest region.
I know Alice from she's in my race. We're both in the same race team, so I know Alice a little bit.
So, and people like Alice and people like Charlie are the knowledge in British cycling. They are the people that have the links in the regions and the expertise that we can really help to push this along. So whereas I, as a single member of staff, was never going to be able to reach riders in the northeast or as well in the southwest and the southeast as Alice and Charlie would, by working through the regional boards, working with the staff who remain, and building that network across regional volunteers, some with the expertise in Zwift, some with the expertise in the network and the regional clubs and so on, has allowed us to really try and expand the reach of what we've been doing quite rapidly. And we've had over 1,000 riders racing most weeks in the last month or so across the various regions. All we've been really doing is piggybacking on the back of publicly available events. So whereas this is a fantastic thing that David's managed to pull together as a private event, we've just been showing up to a random Spanish race or a random Irish race and dumping hundreds of riders in there. So we've broken Zwift a couple of times, we've caused some crashes, but it's been really good fun. And like I said, the objective crucially around all of it was to keep people engaged in a time when they might have drifted away from the edge of the sport, so to speak, and they might have come back to racing hopefully in the autumn or next year and not felt like they had the shape to compete. So hopefully this is something that can help carry people's enthusiasm through the last few months and into when racing returns normally. And then the other part of your question around the women's side is something that's been really close to the work I've been doing. And my tag, Avid Sport, is actually because I run a team, and it's a women's and youth team. And since about 2013, I've been working on women's racing specifically, but also women's cycling in a slightly broader sense around that. And it was one of the things that was very quickly identified when we started to work on the Zwift racing, was that certainly once you get to the point where you're in competitive community Zwift racing, so through Zwift Power and so on, the gender skew is quite significant. We're aware of the imbalance in cycling broadly, and I've been working for a number of years now at Odd Down in Bath on the women's racing side, and we've built the field from handfuls of riders to our biggest single field in the women's race was 35 riders, which is up from 6 on average in the last few years. So it's one of the things that I've been trying to take the lessons again from real life into the world of Zwift. And so when we designed the regional series and the regional leagues, one of the big reasons we wanted to make it about the clubs and not about the individuals is to create an incentive for riders to get their club mates involved, male or female, rather than it just being appealing to the hardcore Zwift racers. And so that was deliberately kind of how it was designed initially, was creating something that would be engaging for club riders who are already engaged with Zwift to help get more people involved. And then, and I'll admit, and Charlie and Alice may be aware of this already, but the point scale that was designed was not explicitly to encourage clubs to get female riders involved, but the weighting was designed as such so that there was a real incentive for clubs to get female riders involved, regardless of the level of their racing. And so the clubs that were taking this seriously and wanted to try and be near the top of the standings had a real incentive to get their female members involved and support them to get set up to race, even if they've never raced before in real life.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't explicit, and it wasn't something that we were forcing people to do, but actually it worked really nicely. And so we've reached the point now where in the South region, out of the 200 races or so, we have, not perfect, but we have 40 women to peak who race. And we did the team time trial event on Thursday this week, and we had 8 women's teams enter from the South region. So it's not perfect, it's still a work in progress, but and the South East have had some fantastic numbers as well, and it's just creating an environment where you're supporting that the development of the female riders supporting one another. And the final piece, I guess, to pull into that is that one of the projects I'm working on in the next couple of weeks, hopefully, is to try and pool some of those resources across the different regions. And it's something we've done a few times regionally with some of the regions where they've been struggling to build their female ridership, is by pairing up with regions with strong female racing. So South region, we've got 30 to 40 riders a week. South East has got 30 to 40 riders a week. So if the East Midlands are struggling to get female riders, let's go do the same race as South East.
I'll bring everyone in. Felix, I'm going to take a quick pause just there. We are going to come back to you. We've had an update from Alex. The women are nearing the top of Box Hill. Alex, what's going on?
Well, steady as you are on the way, these 3 riders, the Skidmore and Steve Lewis, between them, they've just crested Box Hill, and I guess they're on the run-in now. Speeding downhill 63 kilometers an hour, 41k done.
Yeah, so we're just moving the YouTube up to give the women full screen on the race when they finish. I think it's the right thing to do. Just in the men's race, though, there's also a break. Looks like at the front of the race. Lewis, are you watching that?
sound like he is, David. I think just either you update on that, or I can just tell you more about women's race. We've got yes.
Yeah.
He is.
So I can. I've got the live women's race up actually. So why don't I just talk that one through the end? Lewis is.
Well, you can see these 3 riders are away. I mean, just putting Sasha Hall is London Dynamo riding there, and she's got these 2 ATP riders.
Yeah. No, it's going closely.
But it looks like they watched Seymour.
Yeah, it's certainly. You're breaking up a bit, Alex. I mean, the women's race is very much cat and mouse. They're all riding together. It reminds me of the Olympic race in London, actually, where there were 3 riders and they just rode together to make sure that they had the medal positions. It feels a bit like that. But we're going into the tube now, and of course, when you get in the tunnel here, you end up with that big ramp at the end. So we're going to really see. I suspect one of these women, is going to be pushing hard up there and maybe making a break. But you've still got 1.5K to go, and Sasha's got 2 riders from a team against her. So that's going to be a hard one to win. Maybe she'll just hang back and watch what happens, because if she goes on her own, the other 2 can work against her.
I think with 1K to go, it's quite a risky thing trying to go hard now, because obviously the other 2 then will be straight behind you. They'll then be working together. One of the things with Zwift is that you can draft as you would in the real world. But then again, once you lose the wheel of a rider, so say if someone was to make a break for it, it is harder to get back on. But then again, you've got 2 people working behind. So there's some of the things that the riders might be thinking about at the moment as they near the finish.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there they go. They're going up the climb now. Sasha's leading up the climb. Oh, one of the ACC riders has just taken the lead. Let's see, have they gone up together? They've all survived that climb together. So they're all together waiting for the last mile. So we'll see what happens here.
Don't forget, David, you're on the...
I'm on live, yeah. So I'm commentating on the live thing. So the YouTube will be linked, yeah. So you're slightly delayed. I'm actually watching it live here.
No.
Coming around the corner, Sasha's out. She's got about a yard, actually. I don't know. What I can't see here, sadly, is
I can't see what's going on with Zwift at the moment due to some technical issues, but I can imagine what the riders will be thinking at the moment. They'll be sizing each other up, thinking who's looking out of breath, who's looking towards the finish, and really trying to establish at what point they might be able to get a break. And that person who's at the back will probably be thinking, right, can I use this drafting to my advantage to spring a sprint attack at the finish?
Yeah, well, they're going over Tower Bridge together now. They're all grouped up. There's still 3 of them. Wow, it's very tight.
Yeah, David, do bear in mind, I think you're watching live on Zwift, watching on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. But correct. The problem would be that you'll be commentating 30 seconds back, because your commentary is kind of live anyway. They're going round. Still together.
At this point, right, they're starting to think about what gears they want to be in for that optimal sprint. So they'll probably be having their hands in the most optimal place at the moment for the shifters to reach them as quickly as possible.
Yeah, they're literally lined up on the page now. This is going to be very slow, very tight. 45K they're doing, putting some power out. 5 watts per kilogram these women are doing. See the finish line. 350 watts. Sasha's taking the lead here. She's coming round past Tower into that final straight by Southwark Bridge. Here it is. Oh, it looks like ACC. Oh, the win. Oh, is it the win? I thought that was the end. It was the end, yeah. It eased off, yeah. I think Skidmore took it.
I don't know much.
Yeah. It didn't come up with a lead there, actually. But I think Lewis from ACC won that one. Maybe someone else can check that as it comes through on YouTube. Okay, well done, ladies. Okay. And if one of them were to come back, so I've just put the...
Great performance from those three riders, but the big tribute from me to Sasha Holty, who's a very young rider. I think she must be not even 20 yet, come out of the Dynamo system, juniors. Superb ride, stick in there. Amazing. So they really...
Yeah. So I'm going to just put the stream on YouTube now. I think the men's race only, because the women's race has just gone back to everyone. We don't want to see them. And then we can talk to that. So, quick update, Lewis, and then we should maybe talk to Christoph and our two coaches to see what they're thinking about.
Really interesting move from the Dynamo riders, as I mentioned earlier. They got a few seconds on the bunch, up to about 20 seconds at one point, just before the start of box. Both putting a strong effort up box, but they've been closed down. And as mentioned earlier, we've got T Heel from VBO who's gone again. He clearly really likes it. We were chased behind by B. Thomas and Team T2K and his teammate Jay Gray. So those three got 13, 14 seconds on the bunch, with T. Hill just 5 seconds ahead of his two breakaway companions. I think this looks like it could be the winning effort from T. Hill if he can keep this up. What we're seeing is the rest of the group sort of riding within themselves, riding together. They might be competing for the minor places, unfortunately.
Okay, there it is. Okay. Oh yeah, he's got a 10-second lead. Yeah, I can see that. Very good. So we're following him on YouTube now. He's looking good. And I'll start now. Okay. Well, Christoph, thanks for joining us. I think it'd be lovely to hear a little bit of what you've been doing. Have you enjoyed the racing so far? You're on mute still. I've muted you. Something's happened. Hang on a second. Christoph. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, can you hear us okay? Oh.
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Yeah,
can you hear me?
Fine. No.
I can hear you.
It's good.
Christoph,
yeah.
tell us a bit about Muoverti and the bike that you're developing. I had a look on your website yesterday, and it looks very exciting.
Yeah. Actually, David even been to the labs and put bum in saddle. So yeah, we're building a smart bike, so the next generation of indoor cycling, and we've been at this for a number of years. And our basic premise is we want indoor cycling to really truly feel like outdoor cycling. Mm. And if you think about it right now with the pandemic and everything, how many people are taken to the sport and doing indoor cycling? What if we actually got it right? What if we actually made indoor cycling feel like outdoor cycling? Mm-hmm. So our genesis, if you will, was that we saw that 3 million indoor cycling equipment is sold every year, and frankly, none of them feels like cycling. And the reason for that is because they're all static, and that generates sort of the wrong kind of movement. And we heard that, I think, earlier from Rob. And then secondly, the physics aren't really right. So with these flywheels that you have, it doesn't feel really like the physics that you would experience outside. And then with Zwift and other platforms, I think it's important that indoor cycling really becomes completely immersive and really exciting to use, because the number one reason people don't pick up the sport is frankly boredom. We hate going to the gym and staring at the wall and pedaling away. And
Christoph, I'm just going to stop you right there a second. We just got an update from Alex. I think there's some action at the front of the race. Alex, what's going on?
No, we're just cresting. Looks like we just crested Box Hill again, and we've got Hill from VBO away.
Yeah, he's got a strong lead, hasn't he? He's about 26 seconds up.
15 seconds up.
Yeah, and we'll keep an eye on it, but it's
some chase, but there's not many within catching distance at this stage. With only what to go.
Yeah, despite the bigger field, it looks like the men's race is a bit more of a procession at this point. I'm sure they're not feeling that. Well, maybe we'll about 1:30 to the big pack, so we'll see some action down there anyway. Let's see. Maybe look at how they're going on the box. Oh yes, okay. So there's about eight people now, and JP is in that group. Yeah.
It all looks very serene here on the YouTube channel, but these guys must be putting buckets in their houses, home, putting a huge amount of effort into this.
Oh, Lewis, do you want to turn your mic up? You're much quieter than the other people. I don't think anything about that. You weren't to start with.
It's not any better, Lewis, but I think if you could just talk as loudly as possible, because I think we're sort of nearing the race. It'd be really good to have some feedback from you. I can't see it, so just tell us what's happening at the moment.
Everyone else is about a minute back. I can't see anyone coming from them unless T Hill has an unfortunate puncture. But I think Swift should protect him against that. He'll just be thinking, can he hold off Dean Thomas, who's putting out a significant number of watts? He's in the mid 400s. His heart rate's increasing, but T Hill is matching that stride for stride. So I think we can see our winner already. Hopefully there's no commentators curse there.
Yeah, let's just stick with the commentary if you can, Lewis, because it's pretty good. And then behind that, 30 seconds up, some more. I think 10.11 watts now. T Hill behind me, going up the hill per kilogram. That's phenomenal. Yep, and he's over the bridge. He's in the finishing straight now. I don't think Thomas is going to catch him either. He's looking strong.
What is going to be interesting, though, is the race for third place. Just to move away from T Hill slightly, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 riders, all 37 seconds back. So they're all really thinking they've got a chance on that final step on the podium. We've got one Dynamo in there. We've got JP Lake, the Dynamo competing for our club. Just come back to the front for T Hill, who looks like he's got 200 metres to go. If this is real life, I think he'd have his hands off the bar. If he's zipping up, if he's slapping his shirt with pride, because nobody's going to catch him as he comes up to the finish line. I think he would have time to get off his bike. He's obviously not going to. I think he's taken the win. Well done, Team Hill and Team Video. Strong effort and really impressive to watch.
Okay, that's great. And then it's just watching the minor places coming through. Well, actually, let's see. What I'll try and do, I think, Lewis, we should move down the field and see if we can get on top of the B race. But let's chat with Christoph a little bit more on the Muoverti while we start.
We've got a sprint, and third place was taken by, it looks like Jay Gray from Team T2K, with just pipping what I think was JP Lake to the line. So I think fourth for JP, but the results will confirm that later.
So if we try to move, I think, to the B race, as David said, and then we can have a bit more of a chat with Christoph. David, is that?
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Christoph, I'd like to know what sets your bike apart from, a watt bike or a gym bike or a Peloton. Go on, sell it to me.
Yeah, well, there's three things I would say. One is that our tilt bikes, as we call them, they look and feel like real bikes. The second one is that it's a very useful and accurate training simulator. So it throws off a lot of data that will help you improve. And third is that it's completely immersive and exciting to use. Because there's two things. We've patented tilting and steering for indoor cycling, which means you can actually balance the bike like you would outdoors. And that just creates a completely, it creates the outdoor feeling indoors. And that has never been done before. So I saw in the invite here, the next generation of static bike, in our view, is actually, they're not static. They are completely dynamic. And then the physics is an important piece. You go uphill and downhill, of course, you want to replicate that, but there's a lot of physical forces at play when you cycle, right? So there's wind resistance, there's tire resistance, there's your rider weight, there's drafting, there's inertia. So there's a lot of physics that go on that really make up for the on-pedal feeling of cycling. And you have to bring these two things together. So in a way, the mechanical side of it, as well as physics to it, and only that in combination creates truly the feeling of cycling. And that's what we've done. We've got the true feeling of cycling outdoors to the indoor.
I think that's one of the biggest blockages for indoor cycling is the fact that it's just so static and it just seems so restrictive. So it sounds like your bike really is breaking the mold in terms of actually being able to give you not just that, you get some feel of cobbles and things like that on some top end trainers, but there's nothing really that involves tilting or steering and that element of balance, which is so important. So how does your bike actually help a rider to develop their skills? Because presumably the balance and the tilt come into that.
They do, because you have that, the genesis of our product was my partner in crime, Alex, is the guy who built the water rower. So some of you may be familiar with that product. If you watch House of Cards and Frankie Underwood, sitting in his basement, rowing on that machine with a big sort of bucket of water in front of it, because the observation was, indoor rowing at the time didn't feel like rowing in water. The physics are just different. And so that's the same genesis that we brought to bear here, which is, how do you recreate the feeling? And it's not just the feeling, it's the fluidity of motion, the balancing with your hips, is that angular movement that you have. If you look on classic, like spin bikes in the gym and whatnot, right, the people have the exact opposite. They wheel their arms around and the hips are completely stiff. And that is exactly the opposite of what a cyclist would do. And so that natural motion also then at the professional level is an indication of where does your energy go? Where does, when you apply the power, does it dissipate or does it go where you want it to go? And so there's a lot to be said for having accurate data and replicating the outside inside, because then, you can train all year round and it's just better. It's just a better workout, really.
Now, talk about training. We've obviously had a lot of training during lockdown, but I think Lewis says the B race is coming down to 2 riders. Lewis, can you give us an update?
About a kilometre and a half away from the end. We've got Benji Hafton from Dynamo, who's put a real big effort in going against P. Brooks from Ashleigh CC. Not far behind him, we've got a few other riders, including Rusty Short, one of the original members of Dynamo, who now rides the Chain Gang. But I think he's 10 seconds back, and Benji Hafton and P. Brooks are going so hard. I think it'll be tough for him to catch them. They're not far away, coming up to the end of the tunnel, whereas we know there's a very steep but short incline where they're going to have to put out some big watts. They're just about to turn left to that now. Let's see just how high those wattages go. Are they going to? No. Here we go. P. Brooks is hitting over 8 watts per kilo. Benji Hafton is going hard, hitting the same levels, trying to keep with him, but he looks like he's just dropped back slightly. You can still see him though. There's less than a second in it, and I think he'll be looking to a bit of tactical cycling now. He doesn't want to go straight to the front, knowing that P. Brooks has still clearly got something in his leg, but he knows that he doesn't know. I can't imagine he knows what this rider's got in a sprint, but he won't want to leave it to the last 200 metres with the risk associated with that. They're just under 1 kilometre to go now. Where are they? They're coming over to glorious sight, obviously, for Calgary. And Benji really playing a bit of cat and mouse is what's pretty low. I know he can do more. He often does more in a normal club ride. So he really is trying not to go to the front, not to give Seabrook the benefit of the draft. But what they might not realise is that with Rusty Short only 12 seconds back, if they play too much around, then they're really letting him in with a chance.
It's a difficult balance between keeping the pedal to the floor, but also to conserve that energy. It's quite a risky thing getting down to 100 watts just near the finish, because you probably want to be starting to ramp it up and thinking about, how can I make the use of the other rider really by sitting behind them and then pouncing.
Yeah. Well, Rusty Short's taking him now. He's 3 seconds. He's coming right up on them now. Look.
Here we go. This is the danger.
This could be an error.
Completely.
Oh no! Now goes. Now he's gone. They've gone.
Big effort. He's putting out 800, 900 watts. He thinks he's right. Either he sees Rusty as a danger. He's still got 300 meters to go. So this is going to be a long sprint from all the way back there.
Oh, he's got an aero.
As well. Here we go. So far, he's got a second on P. Brooks. I think this is going to be enough. This is a fantastic leap and a brilliant sprint. I think he's about to cross the line. And there we go. So I think we've got the winner of the B race there with Benji Haston, followed by P. Brooks. And I think then Rusty Short took third. Fantastic effort from
Yeah, great. Thanks. That's great. We'll drop back into the C's now, which is a little bit further behind. I'll down number 81, I think. I'll see if I can find them. I had to just get off the YouTube there, because otherwise if I'm on that rider, my whole race I see everyone again. So I can't quite cover the finish on the YouTube. Apologies for those watching on the YouTube.
David, I think this would be a good time to bring in Richard and Jen to have a chat about what Zwift adds to a rider's coaching at the moment, and that kind of thing.
Perfect.
Hi, Amelia. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. Are you all right?
Good. Yes, thank you.
Is this Richard? I don't have any.
It is it's Richard. Yeah.
But the technical issues down this end, we're having to try and improvise. So, how have you found cycling during lockdown, and how do you think it's impacting people at the moment?
Well, I think the good points were made earlier on. I think the static cycling is really come on. I think Zwift is amazing. Really pushes your physiological aspects, your strength, your power. I think Tom Hargreaves made the points. It's a separate discipline. Really good for focusing on those elements of it. It has less of an impact for your technical, your tactical, your psychological aspects, but you don't have all that sort of pre-race shuffling around of early mornings and worrying about the field and where your course is going to be and all the rest of it. Things I would point out though, your power output, some of the power outputs are just massive coming out of the racing today. And really important is that warm down, stretching, and making sure you refuel after what you've been through. So really impressive work, and I think the use of Zwift, I think, has really given people the ability to carry their strength, their power, their fitness through the lockdown really well.
Have we got Jen with us?
Yes, we do. Hi, Amelia. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Having a few sound issues, but we're getting there.
think we all are we're having to really improvise a little bit with a few technical challenges due to this very well organised race by David. I wanted to sort of bring both of you in and chat about what do you think about, coronavirus and how this is changing people's approaches to their training at the moment, because obviously, certainly when I've been talking to my coach, we've basically, well, to be fair, I'm injured at the moment, so I'm kind of not doing a lot, but, there's been a bit of a focus towards shifting back towards a more of a base type of regime at the moment, essentially treating this almost like a winter. What are your thoughts on what people are doing at the moment?
So, personally, I think it's quite mixed, and I think that people's approaches to it have been quite varied. I personally, I'm a coach, and I've got athletes actually racing today, so that I've got a very keen interest in it. But on a personal level, I'm quite new to Zwift, so I've probably only had Zwift for about 6 weeks since more or less the start of the lockdown. And the want to race has been quite high, but I've spoken quite clearly with my coach, and we've been very careful. And I'm in a stage where I would say I'm probably in February of my training. So I'm kind of coming end of winter, coming out of winter, in the hopes that perhaps there might be some racing at the end of the season. So yeah, I'm very much on base, trying not to burn all my matches at the beginning of the season. And I've very much been trying to do that with the riders that I coach that actually race at a national level or above. So
I think it's a very challenging part of this period of time has been the mental side of things, and actually riders having that drive to race at this moment, and also being, they're periodizing training to be race fit right now, but then obviously they've got nothing to race for. How have you helped your rider deal with the mental side of this?
Once again, I'd go with what Jen said, is that we're very much in an endurance phase of the training. So I've encouraged my coaches really to work on maintaining the base fitness with a bit of Zwift racing, just to add a bit of spice into it. But remembering Zwift racing doesn't really replace racing on the road or on track or closed circuit.
Yeah. It's just about, from my side, giving them small events on Zwift to focus on, but not putting too much emphasis on it, because you really, whilst it's a really good for keeping the focus and keeping people engaged, and what we don't want, or what I don't want, is I don't want my athletes actually peaking now, because if they peak now and then something happens at the end of the season, then they're not going to have the mental or the physical capacity to cope with it.
It's important. I think I completely agree with bringing training back down a little bit, and looking at that, say, annual training plan, and reassessing that peak towards more around September, because they are now starting to think about bringing in more racing towards September, October, but it will be a very short season. How are you preparing the people that you coach for that very short season, if actually there is any racing at all?
I think that's a hard thing to do at the moment, because we don't have the dates for the races, and actually periodizing around it means that we're estimating when the peak has to be, and I think, as Jen said, it's a matter of just building on that base, but still maintaining some of the higher end strength power sort of zones, and making sure that we've got something to go forward on very quickly when we know the dates of the races.
Well, it looks like there's been some good training by Matt Stalker at Kingston Wheelers, because he's got about a 40-second lead now in the C race. Do you agree with that, Lewis? What I'm seeing?
It's at this sort of point where he can think, right, I can see exactly how far ahead I've got on the screen, because the difficulty is, if you make a break like that, you really don't actually know if you're racing, unless you're a professional and you've got radio feedback, how far ahead you are. So he can be looking at that number all the time and actually thinking, well, I can actually perhaps back off just, a couple of % just to keep him ticking over and make sure that if, for whatever reason, someone behind him makes a break for it, that they are absolutely not going to jump on his wheel.
Yeah, well, so Matt's he's 40 seconds up and he's going down Box Hill now in the C race, so he's looking good. And we've got our own Stephen Farrington 40 seconds behind with a couple of dynamos with him, but I don't think they're going to they'll obviously give him a lead out if they can. He's got a team. Matt's on his own. He's not riding together, but he's looking strong. He said he's a northerner who came for the cake and stayed for the beer. So I think the coaches might want to comment on that. It's all about carb loading, apparently, and he reckons he's going to bonk on the hill. Well, Matt, I don't think so, but that's where we're going at the moment.
The three chasers will probably be thinking at the moment, well, they'll probably be maybe thinking about, can we work together, can we not? But there's the difficulty with Zwift, is that whereas in a race, you'd be communicating with those three around you, you can't do that on Zwift. So
they can. No, Amelia, they will be. They'll be on a group chat, and there's 2 B riders and 1 C, and I think the 2 B riders are leading out Steve and the C, and they're down to 20 seconds. So this could actually get a bit more exciting. They're definitely working as a pack, and they definitely know who's who, I think, there. So I think there's communication going on within London Dynamo. 16 seconds now. Lewis, are you seeing this, Lewis, as well?
15 seconds to the breakaway rider.
Yeah, 12. They're pulling him right in. What's going on here? He must have maybe burnt a match, I think.
Most must have a Discord channel of their own. There's no way they're doing this without. I know the Velosport guys have got their own Discord, so they will definitely have the same.
I think they're going to reel him in. We're 9 seconds back. This is a real good team effort if they can bring Stephen back on. Just in the channel now. We'll stick with this. I don't know if Lewis, our top commentator, much better than me, can help. No, 6 seconds, 5 seconds. I think they're going to haul him in.
Richard, what would you be saying now if you were coaching any of those chaps in the chase group? What would you be saying now that they are actually catching back on? What would your advice be?
And make sure you pace yourself and you can recover effectively from the effort that you've just put in. Really, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens from now on in. And I'm watching the YouTube channels. I'm a little bit behind the actual.
Yeah, sorry, I'm going to I'll give away the finish to you, but otherwise, when you watch a YouTube later, it won't quite work because you'll hear the voice wrong.
The recovery and pacing now.
14 seconds behind, so that was foreshortened that time gap by the escalator. So 14 seconds they've got to pull back. I don't know if they can do it. Doesn't look like they're really trying. They're doing 3 point. What are they playing at? They don't know. Maybe
they need to maintain together and hold themselves together. If they're going to get the benefit of riding as a group. Then.
Not that I'm biased, but someone should get onto that channel and tell them to go for it.
I hope at this. I'd really hope that at this stage they've picked a lead rider, and the other two are working their socks off to bring it back up, so that lead rider has a chance of resting and getting over and taking the win.
They have, because the 2 of them are Bs and one's a C, so they're riding for him.
Yeah.
That C will be I think pleased with the effort on the back of the 2 Bs.
Yeah, no, they're pulling a lot of watts. So he's doing pretty well at this stage of the race for a C, and those guys are at 350 pulling him through. He's at 300, and Matt is pushing out 350. So I think he's going to take it. But again, it shows that the nice thing is it does look like there's not been a sandbag race. This, it feels to me like all the riders have been putting the right kind of watts out, and it's which is great.
Yep. The other races that should be good.
I don't think they're going to get it. I think Matt's going to take it. I'm going to have to not quite show you him going over the line again, or I'll miss it. But, he's there. Bang. Unlucky. So very tight in the C's. And now we're just going to watch the rest of them roll in, and we can maybe, for people wanting to watch themselves a bit, we can keep going on the commentary a bit longer. Back to you, Amelia.
Yeah, have we got Paul on?
Good morning. How's everybody?
Oh, Paul, hi, how are you? Oh, have we lost Paul?
I'm still here.
Oh.
It's been great racing this morning, especially Tom here.
It has.
500 watts at Box Hill. That's incredible.
Have you been racing in it or just spectating?
I've just been sitting on my sofa with my coffee watching.
That's great Sunday morning. That's how it should be done. I want to talk to you a little bit about London Dynamo actually as a club. You founded it. Tell me about how that came about.
There was we rode for Bike Park, and I suppose that's where the park ride started. But Bike Park were a company in the city where you rode into the city, parked your bike, and went to work. So we raced for them. There was about 14 of us. And they said they were cutting the team, going to receivership. So we were left on our own, really. So we thought, what are we going to do? So we all looked at each other. And the guys that ran it, Phil and Julie and Wolf, they said because they were restarting the cycle fit, as you know them now. And I suppose that's where the blues come from. And I said to them, well, if you can give us some sponsorship money to buy the kit, we'll start a club. So sat down in the kitchen, myself, Russell Short, who was racing earlier. I was amazed that he came third in a sprint. He's not really known as a sprinter. And Guy Andrews, who did a lot of work at RAFA, editor of Rouleur. And Rory Park, who I call the fourth beater, because he did all the accounts for us and kept us honest. So we sat down, filled out the paperwork, went up to British Cycling, put down London Dynamo. And here we are.
What did you hope came out of it? Because obviously now, London Dynamo is one of the biggest London clubs. Did you expect that when you first come out of that paperwork?
I can honestly say I never imagined how big and how widespread and we've become. But I always said at the start, the reason we started it was because all the other clubs are very bureaucratic, old school. We just wanted to be a racing club that just went out there, raced, had fun, have a park ride, bring people through, and just really enjoy getting out on the bike and racing without all the baggage that comes with it.
So slight lag on the audio. Tell me about actually what London Dynamo's been doing at the moment, because there's been a lot of support through COVID, and people have started with racing together and riding together. What kind of things that people can join if you're a member?
Well, we've got the Tuesday ride, and there's organised ride, which it's just been amazing to see how organised we are. So the Tuesdays people can get on, riders like it as a group, or just getting a race together. And then the Thursday nights, my real favourite, the team time trial, that's been amazing. Like, we're getting full teams in the WTRL league. Anybody who wants to go have a look at that, these guys started up with 8 teams, and now they've got like 500-600 teams a week racing. And then you look at the weekend rides, thanks to having Tom Hargreaves in the club, we've got the park ride on a Saturday, the Sunday rides, just totally evolved the club further into e-racing, where otherwise we would just be not been able to ride together.
I think riders have just looking back at the race and up Box Hill. I think it's got an average gradient of about 4.3%, and then a full summit of up to about 9. David, are you seeing the race in live time or on YouTube?
Didn't quite catch that, Amelia.
I was just saying, where are you up to on the race? Because I think I'm watching it with the lag on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm just looking around at some of the riders, who are really quite impressive, because they're still riding on their own to get to the end of the race. And I always think, when that's always good, if you see someone who's, I'm not in a group, but I'm going to push it out. I'm looking at Ralph Carter, well-known track rider now. It looks like Ashleigh might have joined us again. Hi, Ashleigh, is that you back again?
Yes, I'm back.
You can't stay away.
Well, I'm doing intervals now up to Zwift, so I thought I'd listen to the test.
Yeah, okay. Good. Well, nice to have you back. It's been a good race.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
For putting it on. Sounds like very successful.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm interested to know how your training's changed as a result of coronavirus, because you're based in Spain, aren't you? So I know there have been restrictions there, and you've been doing a lot on Zwift. What's your approach to your training, given that the UCI haven't really, well, they really get the races, but actually whether they go ahead is another thing.
Yeah, so during the lockdown, I decided to embrace indoor training. Sorry, I'm doing an interval, so if my breathing is a bit hard, do excuse me. But yeah, so I decided to work on a weakness, which is sort of brute power, which is something that's quite good to work on an indoor trainer. You know, you don't have much freewheel, you generally work harder. So that was really productive during the 7 weeks of hard lockdown. Now I'm able to go outdoors, but I do still like to do at least one interval session indoors to continue to work on my talk and brute force. And today it's raining, so that's part of the reason why I'm indoors today. But yeah, I think Zwift is a great platform and complements the road cycling pretty well.
I mean, obviously, we're talking to Christian and Jen about how they've approached the training of their providers and their coach. How have you looked at training now? Are you back to that stage? With working on power as the sort of at the top end of things?
Yeah, so I did some Zwift racing in May, which was not a bad thing, because if we think about it, we would usually have raced the classics. So it gave some real high-end intensity and something to focus on. But now I'm back into base training to prepare for the season start, which will be end of July, early August.
What points are you doing at the moment? You start putting out some good effort.
Yeah, a little bit difficult to chat right now.
Well, we can come back to this question. I mean, have we not? Oh, I will do something a little bit funny.
So I've got a little question. Something I wasn't allowed to mention earlier, but there's a report in Cycling Weekly that there's going to be a virtual Tour de France. I don't know if you heard anything about this, Ashleigh. You understand? This came out 2 days ago, and it basically says virtual Tour de France, both men's and women races, be held during the original race dates.
So I can comment that it will be happening.
All right.
But yeah, we'll have to wait for the official announcement, which I'm sure will be soon.
Okay, so you'll be doing a bit more on Zwift then. You'll take part, I hope?
Yeah, I certainly will. I think it's a great opportunity.
Fantastic. Okay, well, that's exciting news.
Ashleigh, do you feel as a female rider ever frustrated that there isn't that, what women are perfectly capable of doing their own sort of run. Do you ever feel frustrated that, okay, there is progression, but it's just not on the same level field as men?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is frustrating to be a female cyclist. The sport is progressing and things have evolved over the 10 years I've been involved, but there is still, a long way to go. And yeah, I mean, I suppose it is frustrating because it's not a case of our sport not being exciting enough or that the quality is low. It's just a case of this sort of old school mindset and an old boys club within the high ranks of cycling. So it is quite frustrating.
Yeah.
But I try not to.
While Ashleigh's having a breather, Paul, your daughter Evie, she's a big cyclist, right? How's she getting on? Because she's at the younger end of the scale, right? Go on, Paul. I think you were nearly speaking there. Paul, you there? There you go. No.
Breaking news then.
Okay. Yeah.
Hi, David.
Hi, Paul. Good. No, we're just. I don't know if you listened to Ashleigh there. She was talking about women's cycling, and of course, your daughter Evie is doing very well.
Oh, Evie, yeah, she's sat here now in her Live kit. She rides for Live AWOL, and yeah, I've got to say, Ashleigh, thanks, massive ambassador for the sport, women, and also for Zwift racing. And it was good to see Alice in the race as well, because that's somebody who my daughter Eva really looks up to as a local hero, been national champion. But yeah, she's just been doing lots of miles, like Richard alluded to, base mileage, and then some short, fast races in the week on Zwift, just to keep her going.
Well, I want to touch on something that we spoke about with Ashleigh, in that how, as a club and London clubs in general, how London Dynamo encourage women into the sport, because there's, even like today, we've got 100 odd men and only sort of 10 odd women. How can we bring more women into the club? Because it is a predominantly male atmosphere.
I think from just seeing right from grassroots, it's very male, right from youth, junior, all the way up. I think one thing London Dynamo has done is level prize money in the time trial. That was one step that I've seen. In terms of racing, treating the women equal to the men, because what I've found is if the men's race, some of the races overrun, they always cut the women's races shorter. It's got to be level. I've seen that. In terms of encouraging women, I think in the past, we've had some great ambassadors in the club. We've got Charlotte Easton, Rest her Soul. She really brought it forward. We've had Tracy Corbett out there. We've got some great, ambassadors now in the club. But it's just trying to get. I think it's a difficult question, but what I am seeing on the road, from my own experience, seeing a lot more women out there riding. It's just how do we get them into that club, environment.
Well, interestingly, I as a broadcast journalist, I hear a lot about like whilst I'm not a sports broadcast journalist, I hear a lot about women are actually quite enjoying this period of COVID, purely from a cycling point of view, because they feel they can actually get out on the road, and without having to try and hang on to the men at the moment, because they're able to ride in a relatively car-free environment, because also there are no club rides. What do you think the challenges are bringing the club back together after coronavirus? Have you had any discussions with other club members about, any approaches or difficulties that we might face?
Well,
So
I think,
sorry, Paul, after you.
I don't know, I was about to say, that's probably a difficult question, isn't it? It's like, how do you bring it all back together? And I think it's a mixture of fear, a mixture of what's real, and mixture of who, that risk balance. I want to get out, I want to meet my friends, ride with them, and just get on with it and take the risk. But adding to it, I've definitely seen more female riders out there, which has just been great for the sport. But the challenge of bringing it back together, I think it's generally a risk in people's attitudes and what's the guidance.
Yeah, I agree with you, Paul. I think it's a hard one, isn't it, to actually the ride some of our talismans as a club, to get them back together and get it functioning again. I think it's
I suppose to add to that, the e-racing and Zwift and races like this, so thanks David putting us together, has really kept the club together and communicating.
Just commenting on the women's side of things, I think COVID has been really great for women's cycling in terms of breaking down barriers and getting more women kind of engaged and interested in the sport. So safety is a huge barrier for women, I think. And then, as you say, like just from my personal experience in South Africa, having to always train with men, I think that's often why the conversion rate of women is quite low, because they have a bad experience and they don't come back. So I think Zwift is a great platform for the online world has been a great platform to get more women engaged, break down some barriers, help them to build their confidence. And I think there's a huge future or potential for the online, for the virtual world in terms of progressing women's sport.
I'm sitting there nodding my head, Ashleigh, because my own daughter's experience is like, you know, at regional level, there's not enough women, so she has to race with the boys. You know, and as it gets to 16, they get a lot stronger. And obviously, if you're really good, you can stick with them. And if you're not, you just tend to get very put down and disappear from the sport. So how do we reverse that and get the numbers at regional? You know, at national, it's great. You know, you get a full field of 100. But down at regional level, you probably get 3-4 girls turn up, and you'll have like, you know, 50 boys. So
yeah,
so it's,
100% agree with that.
Yeah, the fittest survive, don't they, Richard? Whereas, like, you know,
yeah, no.
But some of them have got massive ability, and we're just losing from the sport.
I think it's on the race calendars as well, because there are fewer British cycling women's races in general than the men's. So the opportunities, I think, are slightly limited. It's possibly more of a structural thing, plus, you know, not just a club thing, but, you know, I think it's probably wider than just being able to be fit. Because certainly when I've tried to get to races, if I, you know, it's been difficult at times to actually enter a race that I can make, because, you know, you're slightly scratching around for some of the women's ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, you might travel for 2 hours and end up racing up against a field of 4 kind of thing, and it's just it puts people off at that level. But I would say also at the sort of youth level, at the point, you know, that it all gets quite competitive. Also, schools increase, all the rest of it, the time that people have put in is a lot higher, and to maintain the fitness levels, and the standards are very high. And I think at that point, if you're doing okay as a girl, all the rest of it, and then suddenly, you know, you're up in very difficult racing categories, and some of them, you know, you think about the development of the 14-year-old up against the 16-year-old. You know, you can end up being shelled and completely put off from maintaining your racing. So it does sort of wind down to sort of the youth B's, youth A's sort of side of it, and the feed through isn't as high as with the boys' side.
So I see Ellie's on the chat, and I'm wondering if she wants to unmute and now she's recovered a bit and tell us about how the race was. Are you there, Ellie? You're probably scrabbling for the unmute button at the moment, I would think. We'd love to hear from you.
Oh, there we go.
So how was it?
Ellie, have we got you on the line? If not, we'll try and come back to you.
I wasn't pressing push to talk. Can you hear me now?
I was hoping this seems across many Zoom chats. You're on mute.
Yeah. So no, it was a great race, and thanks to everyone for putting it on. Really enjoyed it. Small field for the women again, as you were saying just now. It, you know, translates from the real world into Zwift as well. It is still getting that critical mass of people is quite difficult, but there were 12 of us, I think, racing to start, and we had a group of 7 that made the hills and then, you know, split out as we went. So I think there was quite a solo ride for a lot of us, but still really enjoyable. A group of 3 that kind of went off the front, and I spent a lot of time chasing them down, I think, with Maria, who was behind me, and Lillian behind her. So yeah, great fun. Next time, more people, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. But thanks to everyone for putting it on.
Ellie, how did you navigate decisions on Zwift? Because it isn't like the real world, is it, where you can sort of look around in the same way, you can judge people's exertion levels. How do you decide if you're going to, you know, push it up Box Hill to try to get ahead of someone else? What are your thoughts throughout that?
I think, to be honest, for this one, it was literally just hanging on Box Hill. Yes, I guess you look at other people's numbers. I mean, the girls at the front were putting out 6 watts per kilos on the hill, so there's no way I'm going to stick with that. But it is a little, Zwift racing is more intense, and I don't think I've ever done such top-end training in my life. I'm definitely fitter on the road as a result, but I'm smashing PBs when I'm outside, which is great. So I think Zwift has got, you know, a lot to answer for that. The tactics in the race, again, when you use power-ups and when you, the the really key thing with Zwift is just trying to stick with the wheel in front, and if you lose it, it's so much harder to get back on, I find, than it is in a real race. But, you know, that's Zwift racing. Have I lost you?
I suddenly can't hear anything, so I don't know if anyone can hear me.
Yeah, we can, Amelia. Can.
Oh, there we go.
I'm just looking through the riders still on the course.
Yeah.
There's one. Oh, someone. So Sean Cullen is actually still about. He's very steady, shall we say? He's still just going on to his fourth lap across Blackfriars, heading up towards Box Hill. So he's the Lanterne Rouge, but I think we may just allow him to gracefully finish on his own without our intrusion. Don't want to make this too long for everyone. Then we've got a couple more.
I'm slightly struggling to hear you, David. Is your mic okay?
Yeah, well, maybe not. I don't know. Can you hear me now? Okay.
So every second word, but I'm trying to read between the lines.
Okay. I'm kind of thinking we should probably wind up the commentary and the coverage, because it's pretty much just a couple of riders left and they're taking their time now. So I think that's probably great for everyone. Thanks for everyone for joining, really. And the result from Zwift Power.
Hopefully see more people, more women, especially on Zwift.
Yeah, should do. Someone's come back in now. Who's that?
Well, I think a big thank you needs to go to David for organising this. Brilliant.
It was fun, and Amelia, thanks for all the hard work to get prepared and then not be able to join for an hour or something. That must have been very frustrating.
An hour of rebooting my laptop, because it was honestly, it was really hot to touch. I thought, oh, this is a disaster, but we got there.
Yeah.
Thanks to all of you. It's been great.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, thanks everyone. I'm going to. I think I'll stop the stream now. I'll let Chris may just cross the line. So there you go. He's finished, I think, and it's a good time to stop. All right. Thanks everyone.
See everyone on the road soon.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.